Hey guys, my name is Heather Monroe and I am an integrative psychotherapist and I specialize in relational trauma. One thing that I have been noticing in the reopening of the country is that people's boundary systems are really being tested. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what a boundary system is and where we can run into some blind spots in our boundary system. So when I say boundary system, I am talking about the way in which we protect ourselves from others and the outside world, and also how we protect others and the outside world from us so that we don't end up offending or violating someone else's boundaries. Now, with this reopening and in this post-coronavirus world, our boundaries are going to be tested. And most of these boundaries are going to be tested in the moment. So it's going to be really hard. We can only think about the things that we're okay with so much. A lot of these things are going to a lot of our boundaries are going to show up kind of on the fly and in the moment. So let's say that you go to a party and like a small gathering, and someone goes to hug you and immediately you kind of tense up. That is your body giving you a signal that you are not okay with physical touch. If you don't acknowledge that and you allow that person to hug you, you aren't taking care of yourself. You are forgoing your own comfort you are forgoing your own comfort for somebody else's comfort. So there's an acknowledgement issue there. Do you acknowledge what your boundaries are in the moment? When you start feeling uncomfortable, can you acknowledge that you're feeling uncomfortable? And then if you can acknowledge that, are you able to say what your boundary is? So in that instance, you could say something like, as that person is is approaching you for a hug, you could say, "Oh, I'm actually still social distancing," or something like that. As we get used to this language, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable, but at first it's going to feel awkward to say. So, are you able to say that? What I'm finding is that a lot of people aren't comfortable saying what their boundaries are in the moment. And what's happening to our boundary system now is an opportunity for us to look at where we aren't able to protect ourselves and think about why we aren't able to protect ourselves. And the moment is just an expression of the past in many cases. So if we have a hard time stating what our boundaries are, that usually is because we come from a family system where our boundaries as children were either ignored, continuously violated, or not taken as important, not taken as to be as important as somebody else's boundaries, whether that be a caretaker or an older brother or sister in the family. So if that was the case, we're always going to have a hard time stating what our boundaries are and protecting ourselves, because we're more concerned about offending or making somebody else feel uncomfortable. And again, we can trace that back to how we felt as little kids. It's usually a young emotion for us, right? So if we tend to people please, or we're not good at confrontation, we tend to abandon ourselves in order to make somebody else feel comfortable. So we end up not protecting us and our physical body in order to not hurt someone's feelings. On the other side of that, there can be containment issues that we're coming across now. So if you are somebody who just doesn't think this is that big of a deal, and feels comfortable flying and feels comfortable socializing and going to events indoors, that's completely fine. It becomes an issue when you aren't conscientious of other people's what other people's boundaries might be, that they might be different than you. So if you just get off a plane and you go to a party and you're hugging everybody and you're telling people, yeah, I just got off a plane, it's not a big deal, I don't really think this coronavirus is that serious, you're not wearing a mask and you're talking close with other people and sharing food, then it becomes a containment issue. And you become uncontained, meaning that there is a sense that that your opinion, that everyone needs to be on the same page as you, and that you have more of a right to take up physical space than other people do. Does that make sense? Like that your way is the best way, and other people shouldn't be offended by how you act towards them or what you're doing. So that usually comes from being in a family system where you were falsely empowered as a child, where you were conditioned to believe that your way was that your feelings and beliefs and behavior held more value than other people's. It also can come from a result of being in a family where you were emotionally neglected or abandoned. And so you ended up having to take care of yourself. And because of that, you develop childlike ways to take care of yourself. And when we're dealing with a childlike ego or childlike ways, children are uncontained, and that's okay. They're supposed to be uncontained. It's the caretakers that are supposed to be those containers for the kids. So if you grew up in a family with not a lot of rules, kind of kids ran the show, and you were allowed to be uncontained, you are not going to have a good sense of what containment looks like and respect other people's boundaries or physical space or personal property. So it's a lot of information. I really want to know how you guys are doing with all this, and if you find yourself being a little bit more boundaryless, like unable to protect yourself or to state what your boundaries are in the moment, or if you've noticed that you tend to err on the side of being uncontained. Let me know, tell me your thoughts, and I look forward to hearing about them.